Which can accomplish this? You let you work like a jackass. If you know the for equipe nationale, no man go tell you as ya. Which can accomplish this? Même si you have an opportunité. If you know the for pays organisateur, then go barre you side by side. Which can accomplish this? Polo correct like a how. If you know the for clan de bouffeur, you go chica dans ce sens avancement.
As of 7 a.m. this morning, we have the verdict of what we have been expecting and waiting for all this long while. In this Maikumba, in the southwest region of Cameroon, we just had a small light rain in the morning. Some say in Africa, rain is a symptom of blessings. Take it as you like. But what I know is that this morning, hearts were bleeding for one soul called Marafa Hamidou Yaya, who has been victimized by a regime satanic as it is in Yaoundé, run by a certain Paul Barthélemy Bim Vondobia.
Boy, Andrew, you and Gail really shook things up in Cameroon with your op-eds. You know, Gail complaining about the fact that President Biya issued that decree and only released 2 of the 3 high-profile political prisoners, which, of course, didn't include Marafa. And then you turn right around and respond to the State Department declaring Marafa a political prisoner for the 2nd year in a row. It was really some powerful stuff. We've been headline news. I mean, the U.S. Friends of Marafa Committee and Marafa Watch have literally been headline news in Cameroon for 2-3 weeks in a row. Something else.
Yes, it's pretty amazing.
You know, have you talked to Gail today? I know she's not feeling well, but she was going to be trying to get some relatives, maybe even in D.C., to join us for our protest on the 23rd.
No, I haven't, but I'll call her later in the day.
Okay, well, I hope things work out.
Oh, what are you doing?
I'm filming you. I'm making you a star. You know, you were getting ready for this documentary on this protest at the Cameroon Embassy in D.C.
Oh, I'll have to practice my autograph.
Yeah, a star is born. Really great. Andrew, I just know you're not doing a video when I'm not wearing makeup and all the makeup in the world couldn't hide that it's been a long day.
Didn't you just do the same thing to me a few minutes ago?
Do the what same thing?
Videotape me?
Yeah, well.
What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Oh my goodness. Well, so what is it that you're trying to accomplish now?
Well, seriously, what inspired the title for the documentary, Injustice Anywhere is Injustice Everywhere?
Well, the title is actually just Injustice Anywhere. What you actually did was quote Dr. King's statement that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. But our film title, Injustice Anywhere, has a different motivation. It does relate to Dr. King, and I'll talk with you a bit about it. Is it jiggling up the video much?
No, it's okay.
Okay. Well, anyway, you know, Marafa's chief counsel is Professor Indiva Kofalakale. And I know him from law school. We met for the first time at Northwestern in what year was that? 1981. But over the years, I came to know more about his background, primarily since I've been working as part of Marafa Watch, and came to realize that the professor came to this country against the wishes of his father. He's long deceased now. His father was a prime minister for the Republic of Cameroon, and he actually wanted Indiva to go to school at the London School of Economics, but it was Indiva's choice to come to the United States. So even though he was a foreigner in this country and had just left a life of privilege. I was amazed as I gradually got to know how much he internalized the struggle for justice of black Americans. He actually marched with King and was jailed for a while and suffered abuses that, is my understanding, was quite common to people who were part of the civil rights movement of the 60s. And that motivates it motivates his abhorrence, his just intolerance of injustice even to this day. But you know what's so amazing is that I didn't know it. I think I was maybe 10 at the time, maybe even younger, but the professor married a woman who lived on the corner just a few blocks from my house. We were one family, prominent family in the neighborhood, and she was part of a prominent family on another corner of the neighborhood. But I never met the professor until we went to Northwestern. I think that was in 1981, Northwestern Law School. He had, of course, had graduate degrees before going to law school, where that was my first. I had just graduated from Notre Dame and went to Northwestern for law. And then we graduated from law school in 1984. In 1984, yes, and I literally didn't communicate with the professor for nearly 30 years. And you notice I call him professor. Occasionally I will call him Indiva, but I'm most comfortable referring to him as professor because he was an accomplished professor when we first met in law school. And here, most of the people we hung around, and myself especially, were just kids, not even having our first profession, a lot of us. And he was teaching and was already a distinguished political scientist. So 20-some years, nearly 30 years passed, and I was at the time a full-time good government advocate here in the U.S., but I was beginning to focus on the international dimensions of what we did here in challenging systemic problems with U.S. institutions, government institutions. So I reached out to my good friend and mentor to a substantial extent, Dr. Coppola Kali. And at some point, I became aware that he was Chief Defense Counsel for Marafa Hamidou Yaya. And I was intrigued because, again, I was focusing on international human rights issues at the time. And eventually I started working with Dr. Coppola Kali in addressing some of Marafa's legal difficulties, which led to me with you and Gail and my husband co-founding Marafa Watch, and a few other people were in on it. But back to what inspired the title. I remember I was a young child in the late 60s, no more than 9 or 10. But even at that age, I could perceive through my family, my father, my mother, and things I would hear and see perhaps on TV. I could sense how Black Americans at that time, they had a sense of entitlement to human dignity. And I used to marvel at images, and I still do. I still do when I see my predecessors, the social justice advocates in the 60s. I see them peacefully submit to being viciously attacked by police dogs and pounded by, the water from the fire hoses. You've seen that before. You recall that, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Probably more vividly than I did. And I really contemplate just, how it is that Dr. King managed to inspire people to put themselves in harm's way, considering that the justice and the civil rights that are at stake at this time are just as, well, in a large ways, and in many occasions, just as serious. So often it's literally life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness at stake in a very very real way. And, you know, this paradox of how willing people were to even die in the 60s as compared to just how difficult it is to get people to have constructive displays of disdain for miscarriages of justice in America. It's a paradox, and you know, we're getting ready to do this protest in Washington D.C. the protest of the Cameroon Embassy in Washington D.C. and it's to commemorate Marafa's arrest in April 2012. We just cannot let that date pass quietly. It just would be no excuse for it. And of course, it's the first anniversary of Marafa Watch. And, you know, I'm just looking forward to seeing how the event turns out, because this impatience there's impatience with injustice anywhere that a young Ndiba Kofolekale brought from Cameroon to this country and allowed him to become immersed in the struggle for justice of Black Americans. So this impatience with injustice that this country helped nurture in him, Marafa's Chief Defense Counsel, it nurtured it in him as a very young man. I'll be curious to see if it's still blowing in the wind, and if Americans can find it in their hearts to take some time out and, in a way, return the favor and stand up for the liberty of someone who's very much unlike them in a lot of ways, far, far away, a political prisoner, Marafa, even though we have so many atrocities that we're dealing with every day as good government advocates here in the United States. So that's really what the inspiration is. We want to renew this sense that injustice anywhere is intolerable to us as Americans. Not just here in our country, it's intolerable here, but it's intolerable no matter where it is, because it's a threat to justice everywhere. So that's the explanation.
And a pretty good explanation at that.
Thank you.
You let you walk like a jackass. If you know the for équipe nationale, no man go tell you as ya. Which can accomplish this? Même si you have an opportunité. If you know the for pays organisateur, then go barre you side by side. Which can accomplish this? Polo correct like a how. If you know the for clan de bouffeurs, you go chica dans ce sens avancement. Which can accomplish this? Like a gun beep. If you know the for club that water, you on suffer no go teme.